I've been thinking about this whole idea of unwinding, and it brought back to mind the time when I was young. I have 3 siblings, and being in the house and my mother saying, "Stop it, go outside, you need to unwind." And I laugh as I think about that, because I think, unwinding, isn't that, we'd go outside and we'd play and we'd ride our bikes and we'd do all the things that children do. And now, what do we do? What do we do? For me, unwinding means that I take time. I take time to be in nature. That is my favorite place to go to unwind. It's that place where, as Emerson said, it really understands patience. And you can feel patience when you're out in nature. So that's my first unwind place, to just walk around our ponds, and just look at the trees, see the animals. And anything that's really up for me then begins to dissolve. And that's what unwinding is to me. The other big piece of unwinding for me is starting my day off with unwinding before I've even begun, and that is with my practices. Being able to sit quietly. I love to do what I call sacred reading, and just have those shimmer moments of words that pop out at me that I'm meant to hear at that moment. And then it can take me into my day with more peace, more quiet, more settledness. Unwinding. How do we all unwind? How do we find time in all of the hecticness of life to just stop? To just stop and unwind. I go back to thinking about my mother, who says, "Go outside and unwind. Go get rid of some of that energy you've built up that is, of course, making her a little crazy." But it was one of the greatest gifts when I think about it, because it did take me outside of myself and into another place where I could release any pent-up energies that were in me. And finally, I think of another place where we need to learn to unwind, and that is in traffic. We are so good at being in such a hurry and being angry at that person next to us. And yet I remember something I read from Thich Nhat Hanh when he said, when you get to a stoplight, use that stoplight like a bell to remind you to pause, just to take the time to pause. So I think it would be great if all of us took just a little bit of time to think about, what is it that I can do to help myself unwind at the end of the day, unwind from all of those emotions that want to come up, unwind from the hecticness, the frenzy of life that we live in now. Each one of us has to find our own way. I know my favorite way is to be outside, where I can really feel nature, feel the divine, enjoy the colors, the scents, the sounds. And I'm going to encourage each one of us to find a way to find our place to unwind. And I really want to talk to you a little bit about my upcoming mini silent retreat. That is a great way to unwind, and it's a great way to get to know yourself. I think one of the issues we have with unwinding is we're almost afraid to see who we are, to really look at ourselves and get quiet. And yet, stillness, silence is God's first language. So in this mini retreat that's coming up on February the 10th, it's a Saturday morning, we'll be looking at Jesus's way of doing spiritual practice. The one that he used the most, and it shows up in the Bible, it's just that it isn't something that's ever emphasized, is he paused. He would go away and he would pause, and he would go silently to spend time with God. And that is what our spiritual practices are all about. So we'll talk about that pause, and I'll teach some ways that you can actually get into that stillness and be comfortable with it. Things like holy readings, which I mentioned that I do. I do sacred readings, as I mentioned, every morning. And what you do is you look at those and you let them speak to you. And what Jesus was doing in his pausing was he was allowing God to speak to him. He was allowing the divine to guide him. And that kind of gave him the strength to then go back out and work with all the thousands of people that were coming to him all the time, wanting healing, wanting to hear all the words that would soothe their souls and help them to unwind from all that was going on in their life. So that is a huge piece of what we're going to do. And we're also going to look at contemplative prayer. Now, we do the 5 steps of affirmative prayer or treatment, and they're wonderful steps. And the contemplative prayer is a prayer that takes you deep, takes you into yourself, and helps you to come out refreshed, come out ready to take on everything that may be coming up in your life. You know, the life that we're living right now is one that does feel hectic, frantic, frenetic, and we've got to get some tools to be able to move through life so that we can enjoy life and that we can hear the voice of God that is always speaking to us from the depths of our souls. If we'll just pause, if we'll just take time to unwind, take time. And that's why I mentioned nature, because going into nature gives you the chance to be quiet. You can sit still. You can just look at nature. You can watch the trees. You can watch the clouds. Have you ever watched the clouds? Laid down on the ground and watched the clouds and looked at the shapes and said, oh, there goes a fish. There goes a cat. There goes a dog. We've got to learn how to stop, how to pause, take deep breaths, and then be able to move on into life and be able to be productive then, to be able to be compassionate, to be able to be caring and loving. Life, we have one life to live. And how are we living it? Are we living it frenetically? Or are we finding those moments when we can just stop? When we can stop and listen and feel and know that we are unique human beings on planet Earth at this time, and we are here for a reason. So take some time to find those ways to unwind and to enjoy life, but to not get caught in that rushing stream, that rushing water that may throw you against the rocks. Have some control over what's going on in your life, and that's how you can learn to unwind. Pause, be still, be silent, and enjoy that silence. Enjoy being with yourself, because that's all you really have in the end.
Great Spirit, infinite source of everything that we need. Courage, love, there's an abundance. And the beauty is there is no judgment. It is given to us freely. All we do is just open our hearts and receive. And I know that the divine is in each and every one of our hearts, providing what we need. And I declare that the courage is there. Courage to be comfortable in who we are. Courage to stand strong in whatever we encounter. The courage to face those challenges and overcome them. Break those chains and sail right through. I declare that that courage provides us that wisdom and the peace for everything that we encounter. And it opens our heart so the divine flows to us, in us, and through us. So everyone we encounter gets to experience the divine. Oh, I'm so grateful. So grateful for this abundance. Just knowing everything is the way that it is meant to be. So I release this prayer into that universal law because I know and I declare that everything is manifesting just the way that it is meant to be. So beautiful. And so I release these words and I let it go and I let it be. And so it is. Amen.